Good, Zennie. How are you?
Outstanding. Outstanding.
All right, gentlemen, we are officially live. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and welcome Mr. Zennie Abraham, Zennie62 Media, and of course, my man, Alex Fleming, Fantasy and Flavors, Buck Report contributor, and Florida Sun Review.
Hey, Alex, you ought to join our channel, man. He's delayed.
He is delayed. Yeah, he's a little delayed there.
I think I shocked him. He literally froze.
I think he did.
Wow, I've had a lot of different effects on people, but not like that. Man, golly.
Alex, you there?
I'm not delayed at all. I'm just listening. You're blurry, Eric.
All right, well, we'll make it work. So the reason why I asked you two gentlemen to join me tonight for this conversation is because, as we know,
I'm right here.
Okay, we got you. The reason why I asked you guys to join this conversation tonight is because the NFL has passed an expansion of the Rooney Rule. And I just wanted to get you two gentlemen, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because, you know, here it is 2020, and it seems as though something that should be to the level of equality is nowhere even close. So, Zennie, let me start with you, and I just want to get your thought on this because you are someone who has been around this league for decades, and you've had a hand in things like this getting pushed forward. So let me talk to you and get your thoughts on everything.
Well, yeah, it is way behind. It's to say it's a step in the right direction is kind of not exactly the issue. Ever since we had a change in the White House, there has been, in a number of areas of society, a sort of a retrogression. But like everything, it's not perfect. The retrogression comes at a time I thought I'd never see. I'll be 58 this year. 57. I'll be 58 this year, right? And I never thought I'd see commercials where you have white male, black female, wife, and children, or the opposite.
Right.
Black male, white female. And that is constant and it's normal. And it is a linchpin example of how far our society has come, not just in terms of casting, but in terms of what people will consume in terms of content, right? It's a big thing. But on top of that, you have the NFL that seemingly wants, in a number of different areas, to basically keep it not mixed. Even as much as like Chris Spielman, who's Rick Spielman, excuse me, the GM, the Vikings, his family is incredibly mixed, daughter, African-American. And point I'm making is that even in the NFL itself, no one can run away from the fact that we are mixed today.
Right.
And African-Americans play prominent roles in a number of different areas of society. It didn't just start with President Obama. Now it's CEOs in a number of areas. It's female CEOs in tech. Morgan DeBaum, who runs Blavity.com, I don't know if you guys are on Blavity or not, or met Morgan. I'm on her list where she has this kind of a webinar, right? But she weighs 10.6 million for Blavity. And she's half my age, and I listen to her for advice every day. And so the NFL, because of all these changes, is really behind schedule by a bunch. And so I think it puts a net, I don't have to say I think, I know for reasons I can't explain because I don't want to give away someone's position, but I know the league, there are people in the league who are embarrassed. All right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just straight out, complete embarrassed. And I, as friends, feel for them, but I do more than feel for them. The point is, beyond feeling for anybody, how do we get out of this? I think the best way to get out of it is, I think the NFL needs to go on an expansion when we get out of this pandemic and a recruiting of Black billionaires to own NFL organizations. The last time the NFL really had a serious push was when I forgot his name, but he was out of Arizona and owned a company. I actually owned 6 different companies, but one of them had revenue issues. And the biggest quote that came out of that was when he said, "I was 6'1", I'm tons of fun." I thought, oh no, that's the one thing that everybody's going to hear, right? And that's going to foreshadow everything else. And sure enough, that's what happened.
When you have when you have a league that is 68 to almost 70% African American, and they're being coached, and the organization predominantly is not of the same skin tone as those who are actually producing and being on the field, something that we have seen since the inception, and even since the merger back in the 70s of the AFL and the NFL, it just, for me, it brings to mind how people just want to stay in their own little world, and as best as possible, not break out of this bubble and expand to a different level. And what bothers me is that now we have this new addendum to the rules, basically saying that we are going to start interviewing more minorities for positions of power, not just at the GM or the coaching level, but also as far as being a part of the executive board, or maybe being the head of marketing or sales. So Alex, let me go to you and ask you, when you look at that whole entire scope of them saying, we are going to start interviewing more for people of minorities and women as well, to bring them into the most lucrative business, I would say one of the most lucrative businesses in the entire world. What's your take on that, Alex? I'm not sure if we still have him. Alex, you there with us?
He screen froze. He's froze.
Yeah, he's been jumping in and out.
Yeah, you probably hear us now. Here he is. There is he's got a 10-second delay.
I think so. I think there's a delay there.
And it might be that generally happens when either if he has some sort of screens open and on his end that he needs to shut down, sometimes that's a RAM issue,
Yeah. Alex, are you there?
And,
no, I don't think so.
well, he's talking, and he's saying something. I can hear. I can see his lips move, so I know he's saying something. he's definitely talking. And I think
I'm gonna message him. Yeah, he's talking.
Yeah, he knows there's yeah.
And now he's. All right. Well, I'm
gonna take a guess at what I think Alex might say.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, it's like this. There's a lot of racism. Okay, and we need to be aware of that first of all. And I think the NFL is. But I tell you, if they don't take care of this soon enough, it's going to be a long day. They're going to lose a lot of people, and they could lose a lot of money too. I think Alex might say something like that. I don't know.
I agree, and I'll speak on that. My whole topic, and I had messaged him to kind of drop out and come back in. I look at this, and I'm trying to be as business minded as possible when it comes to this, but I can't, just because I look at it and I'm saying to myself, okay, you have every opportunity to be on the right side of history. You have every opportunity to be the first organization to truly show that everyone across the board, men, women, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever race, whatever sex, you have the means and the motive to give everybody that best opportunity. Unfortunately, they are the last to fall in line. And that is what is truly, for me, it is truly bothersome, because I'm like, how can you not be prepared? Hey, what's going on? There he is.
He explodes on the scene with a bang and then leaves.
There you go.
Well, your screens, and I mean plural, both of you guys, your screens were freezing. And anytime I would talk, you guys wouldn't hear me. So I switched from the laptop to the phone. Can you hear me now?
We got you. Just flip your camera for me and then take off. Do what you do.
Yeah. So wait, you didn't hear my invitation of you, huh?
No,
Dang.
I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think it was accurate.
All right.
Well,
So
wait. How do you know it wasn't accurate if you didn't hear it? Come on, man. I had you down. That's like, what are you talking about?
so Alex, with the expansion of the Rooney Rule, I got to get your thoughts on this.
I think this whole thing is a joke. It's a bad joke. Segregation allegedly finished after the Brown versus Board of Education, yet we're still striving for equality. I've mentioned this multiple times before. White man does a crime, I do a crime. It could be the exact same crime. I'm getting a bigger sentence. People can get thrown out of their own home. Trust me, Eric. I think you know I know. Yet it doesn't matter because they're still worried about skin tone. A lot of these owners are more worried about who they feel they'll have a connection with instead of the best man for the job. I'll argue with anyone night and day. If someone had the career resume of Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, or Cliff Kingsbury versus Todd Bowles or Eric Bieniemy, who do you think should get the job if nobody could see their face? That's an easy answer. It would be Bieniemy or Bowles. Yet, someone who's 9-22-1 who took over for a winning head coach doesn't even have to worry about his job until year 3. And Cliff Kingsbury, who I actually like, I know the guy. I like Cliff Kingsbury, but he didn't deserve that position at Arizona. But lo and behold, Bieniemy can't even get an interview. Now, you're telling me that Stefanski, who's now the head coach in Cleveland, was a better choice than Eric Bieniemy? You're telling me a wide receivers and special teams coach that was all the way on the bottom of the bench of the New England Patriots is a better pick than Eric Bieniemy? I don't understand the concept as to why in 2020 we are still having race issues. This is never going to end because now I'm hearing Caucasians, I'm not going to say white because they might say that was bad or vindictive. I'm hearing Caucasians saying that that's racist. First and foremost, how can it be racist if we're trying to broaden and expand horizons and make it to a tier that you guys are already at? And the second that we're crying for equality, you guys are like, well, that's anti this, that's anti that. That's not fair. It should go to the best person available for the job. That's the problem. It's not going to the best person available for the job.
Okay. And listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, but like I was telling Zennie, I'm trying to look at this from a business perspective. What I don't agree with is the fact that you have 30 Caucasian owners who basically are running things. And Alex, to your point, you're absolutely right. It's who they are going to connect with. Are they going to connect with an individual who is very reputable, like a Mike Tomlin or a Ron Rivera? Or are they going to connect more with, and I only use this name just because I actually know and have met this man, and Zennie, you know him as well. Are they going to connect better with a John Gruden or maybe a Mike Mayock? You know what I'm saying? So I get it, but at least these conversations are starting. And that is the one piece that I can say I can show some positiveness in this and say, it took this in order to have the conversations come to the forefront. The concern that I have is when the NFL season starts and then this, like the other proposal that got tabled, gets put on the shelf. If this conversation doesn't keep going throughout the entire season and making sure that we are continually having this conversation and that quality individuals, not just anybody, but quality minority and women coaches, GMs, business savvy individuals are getting their shot to be at the table, I'll be okay with that. But that's what scares me the most, is that this conversation come September is going to get put on the shelf. Go ahead.
I think the biggest problem of all is there's an ecosystem that produces this idea that a coach should always be someone who's white and male. And I'll give you an example. Ann Killian, who has written for years for the Chronicle, is someone that I've been acquainted with for some time. We have a lot of the same friends, some of them my best friends. But she has something that to this day I find completely unless she's changed of late, bothersome. And that is whenever she talks about NFL coaches and she lists or forms her own list of who the successor may be for a position, they're all white and male. And this is the same person that will, with Christine Brennan, speak up like that and talk about the need for more women in the NFL in different positions, including coaching. And so I remember on Twitter, I really famously took her to task on her habit. I said, why don't you name African-American head assistant coaches who should be great head coaches in the NFL? I got silent. She didn't even bother to answer. And then when I saw her in person, I repeated the question and she came at me with something completely off subject. And I said, you're changing the subject, which means you don't want to deal with it. But I didn't want to argue with it in front of our mutual friends. So I sort of just let it go. But when people do that, they have an issue. Okay. Right. I mean, period, end of story. They have an issue. But it's that white media, which is why I started Zennie 62 Media, one of a number of reasons that does that. And there's no counter. And so until there is an active Black media that is countering what the message of the white media puts out, I'm sorry, I'm not saying that's the only answer, okay? But what people hear is a big part of it. For example, there's Clay Travis, all right? And yet he gets bumped up. And then the only people who are Black in the traditional media areas that get any play and money tend to be like Jason Whitlock, who talk against, someone else who's Black. And even Stephen A. Smith moves in that direction. So the equation to get around that, frankly, is to do what Morgan DeBalm has done in terms of raising money for her company. But also, I think more important for those who are, when I say Black media, I mean, you can have your own blog, all right? I don't care how big your blog is or is not. But as long as there is an interconnected ring where we are forming our own version of the wire services and getting messages out, until we do that and we stop putting things on Facebook, which isn't owned by anyone African-American, it's owned by someone whose sister I've known for years, Randy Zuckerberg, all right? Until that happens, you're not going to have a chisel with which to hammer and pound at the rock that needs to crumble. There's not even going to be a dent. Something else that's happening, this goes back to my content issue. The NFL's got to watch it. And you say it's not, for you, it's not a business issue. For me, it's all business. Why? Because more of us consume media online in many cases, like, for example, for Instagram and Twitter, than any other group. That's why there's, for example, a Black Twitter, although there ought to be a blacktwitter.com, which would portend another platform that someone Black owns, okay?
Right.
And here's why I really push that. When I was in school at Skyline, and I had a teacher named Mr. Rizzo, was Italian. He would say, I'm Italian. But he wasn't saying it to be, derisive. He was dating my friend who was 16 years old. I'm not going to say her name, all right? I'll just leave it at that, okay?
There you go.
My point is that he could say and be the only Italian in a room, I'm Italian. He had a great car, great, everything, okay? No one Black should be afraid to say, hey, I'm Black. That's how we do things. That should be a source of pride. And no one should take that as, oh, you're being racist or anything else. But it is writ large a version of how we feel about ourselves as individuals. And it goes back to something that was introduced by Jesse Jackson at Operation Push when we lived in Chicago in 1966. You'll say it loud. I mean, James Brown would say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Mm-hmm. But Jesse had the buttons, okay? My mom said, you don't need that to know you're proud. And we owned a 3-story building in Chicago at the time. This was 1966. We bought it when I was born in 62. My point is that that kind of self-empowerment, all right, within each of us has to come. But we have young kids today who say, well, that's not for me because I'm Black. Gentlemen, I didn't hear that when I was coming up, okay? No one told me, oh, don't listen to John Kenneth Galbraith because he's white. Therefore, I became an institutional economist, okay? I can go on and on. Or don't read about Walt Disney and Disney World and the Reedy Creek Improvement District because they're white, all right? But you hear that today.
Right.
So it's like, you lose the ability to understand intellectual tools that can help you build yourself, regardless of where those tools come from. And I've never heard that before. And it bothers me that we're going to raise a generation that thinks that the world is closed out to them.
But they still, if they're talented enough, and we can all attest to this, if these young men and women have the talent and the skill, they will use that social media platform to get themselves to that level. But it's a few and far percentile of those who will actually utilize it, because there are so many of us who will sit back and like you said, they feel it is closed off simply because of the color of their skin.
Well, it's like they won't build platforms, okay? All the people that I know, like for example, I was invited March 7th of 2007. Guy I was a partner with at Forio Business Simulations, my first company, sports business simulations. He says, hey, you should go to this launch party. This is called Twitter, And so I wound up at the Twitter launch party. No one had ever heard of Twitter.
Right.
Pounce, Pownce, Pounce, which is started by Kevin Systrom and Leah Culver, who is a sex writer and a programmer. Not kidding you, this is all true, okay?
No, I got you.
They started Pounce, but Kevin spent so much time on Twitter that they didn't let it grow. So my point is, they had started this little platform. Evan Williams, who was co-partnered with Jack Dorsey, taught himself programming in Oklahoma. They built this all themselves. There's no one African-American that cannot do the same thing, but you got to start small. And you got to say, hey, look, and someone else who's bigger, who's black, who has money, be they wherever they come from, has to say, and we are out there. We are out there in force, okay? Okay. Has to say, hey, you know what? I'll invest in that. I'll invest X if you get to Y. And so on. Or just tell the other friends about it and say, hey, check this out. And if they don't like something, tell them how to get better. Don't diss them.
Right.
Tell them, you know what, I like this, but this is what you can do better.
Right.
And then you know what happens? The power grows.
No, I agree.
So
Alex, let me get back to you on this one, because you and I are going to spend a lot of time this season covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, more importantly the NFC South, because we live down here.
Sack City. Sorry, I'm just had to say.
We've got only one of the four quarterbacks in this division who is black, and Teddy Bridgewater. What do you and I, and Zennie as well, but I'm just saying, speaking for us because we down here, what do you and I need to do to make sure that this conversation not only keeps rolling, but because we might be able to speak to some of these personnels in these organizations, what's the message that we need to get across to them?
We need to be standouts. We don't need to be fillers. We don't need to be tokens. Zennie can attest to this. When I was at the NFL Combine, thank you again for making that happen for me, Mr. Wilson. But when I was at the NFL Combine, I have to thank the Orlando Magic and the NBA, because those reporters were aggressive. They went after it. If you didn't jump in, they automatically asked the question. So when I was at the Combine, I was like, these guys are passive. I don't want to use the word soft, but they were passive. So I'm like, I'm a kid in a candy store. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is the steps that I want to take for my future endeavors. So I'm like, you know what? If you're not going to be bold, I'm going to be bold, because I have questions to ask. I'm curious, and I'm going to get as much information as I possibly can. I'm glad I pissed off Mike McCarthy. I love the fact that Ron Rivera and I had an excellent conversation. I'm surrounded by media, Eric, and I got to ask this man 6 valid questions, and I got eye-to-eye contact from Mr. Rivera. Do you think I got eye-to-eye contact with Mr. McCarthy? Hell to the no. As a matter of fact, he attempted to diss Zennie whenever Zennie called out a famous play from a Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame coach.
Oh, I didn't take it as a diss, though. I didn't.
Well, he completely ignored the question. He was trying to he tried to play it off. But
it's like interesting. Can I, if I may, real quick? I'll tell you, I didn't perceive it as him. But what I perceived is, I'll be honest with you, the people in the media audience who are mostly white were laughing. And I'm so used to that because I've done this since 1993 that it was just kind of like, pink, because the one person who knew exactly what I was talking about was Rich Dalrymple. All right. And then when I told Mike, I said to Mike, and folks watching, I think it bears some explanation. What I had said, there's a big problem in the league. And I want to hear more what Alex has to say, but I want to put some meat on these bones so
Sure,
that
please go ahead.
Don't misunderstand. I asked Mike if, in coming back to the fold of the NFL, he had a chance to change the common West Coast offense terminology, which really comes from Paul Brown, and it was massaged by Tom Landry when he was head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I used a nomenclature that really is actually known. If anyone, it shows someone's age if they know this. Okay, so basically it showed that I was old. True. Super Bowl 12, the play where Robert Newhouse threw the touchdown pass to Golden Richards was called Brown right, X opposite shift, toss 38, halfback lead, fullback pass to Y. Okay. Now encapsulated in that, you call out the formation, you call out what the blocking is with a fullback, you call out the shift, which is X opposite shift, which is the tight end in Cowboys nomenclature because X is the tight end. In other vernacular, Y is the tight end, and on and on and on. Okay. But that mouthful that I just recited was transferred whole cloth to Bill Walsh. Brown formation where the fullback is behind the quarterback and the halfback is on the weak side, tackle side. That's also was used by the 49ers under Bill Walsh. My point is it's still in the NFL, but guess what? The college players don't know it. Many of them, unless you went to Alabama and you get the Erhart Perkins model, which is a hybrid of that. But what they get are, hey, here's an apple, right? The apple means fly, right? That sort of thing. And so you got this guy on the sidelines holding up an apple, right? And so they've never even been in a huddle to see that. So what I was trying to get at is if Mike had incorporated that, and I asked John Gruden a similar question, and also incorporated a way of doing a no huddle quickly, right? These are the two areas that coaches need to work on if they're going to develop a true speed offense. So everything I asked was highly technical. It wasn't meant to put anybody off, but I have a technical brain. I only got interested in football because of Tom Landry had put engineering and feedback and control theory into football as expressed in the NFL's Encyclopedic History of Professional Football, a book I found because Otis Sistrunk was my mom's friend. I had nothing in common with him. I was into being what I call a black intellectual, and I was 14 years old. And I thought, I don't care about football because, and I said this at 6 years old, there are no black coaches. I was 6 when I said that, all right? So it took a lot for me to intellectually change, but I found something that I thought, I got to get along with Otis Sistrunk, okay? That's how I started. So for me, it's always been an intellectual play. It was not, I had zero issue with McCarthy. The people who laughed, I thought were just, what they always have been. And I'll leave it at that.
Gotcha.
I had my own private Idaho, and that's what that was all about, Alex. So, so when you were saying and I didn't mean to, because you approached me later and said, oh yeah, you really showed him up. I didn't mean to show him up. That wasn't in my view at all. In fact, prior to that, I got after Dalrymple and I said, because Ermal Allen is the father of technical and analytical football and data analysis in the NFL. And everyone should know that name going back to the 60s. But guess what? Someone, I think it was Mike Fleiss, was quoting the Broncos analyst, who I think has since been released. And I said to Dalrymple, no, it was Ermal Allen. And Dalrymple went into this, that's the old Cowboys regime that lost $1 million a month, right? I'm thinking, no. That's the Cowboys regime that built the modern NFL, all right, along with Paul Brown. That's what you should focus on. Otherwise, you'll lose sight of it. And if you represent the Cowboys, you won't truly understand what the Cowboys are all about in total. Ermal Allen created what is now data analysis and collection and big data. We just have better ways of collecting the data, and we have faster computers. That's the only difference. And so my point is, it's a matter of how, it's always, to me, it's a test of, okay, well, how well do these people who think they understand the game really understand the game? In the case of people like Rich, because I try to, poke them. The NFL loves it. All right. Rich Dalrymple's predecessors was Greg Aiello. Greg Aiello was there when I was invited to the Cowboys office at 17 to watch 6 reels of film. Why? Because I asked a question about who the keywords were for Bob Brunick when he was in the middle of the flex defense. And I was 16 and I did. And they invited me to the office. My mother worked for United. I said, Ma, look what happened. So I got invited down there, and it was one of the best moments of my life. I'll never forget. I recited it to him. And it turned out Greg was at the other side of 6160 North Central Express, where they had the whole top floor at the time. All right. So that's why the league is taking care of me, because I have an appreciation for that structure. And my point has always been that African Americans have been more part of that structure, but it's kind of like going to that party where you're mostly white and only the white people take pictures of white folks. Okay. So you don't know. Okay. All right. But Alex, I wasn't being, I didn't mean to insult anybody. And I apologize if I came off a little bit too harshly in that case. But no, I just love technical football, man. That's just me.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. My point was that you have to be aggressive in a room to get noticed. If you're not aggressive, people will try to walk all over you. Now, there's a difference between being aggressive and just being rude. I wasn't being abrasive. What I found funny is that there were very few of us there. Yet, the players spoke to us. A lot of the coaches spoke to us. Big Ten Network, ESPN, NFL Network. People were approachable because it was the setting. NFL players, coaches, and assistant coaches has to be the exact same thing. If we're playing the game, and there's 70, 75% of us, yet we can't get some type of representation when it comes to coaches, how do you expect to be a leader of men if you won't allow us to lead? How do you expect us to love and follow a product when every other year you're calling for Tomlin's job? 2 years ago, we had 8 black coaches and you fired half of them. Ron Rivera gets fired in the middle of the season, but then comes back and gets another job. And I'm happy for Ron, but his entire staff gets fired, gets the doors locked on them. And it's like the owner didn't even speak to these people. Tepper wanted things his way. And that's probably another reason why Cam Newton is no longer with Carolina, other than the fact that Rivera is no longer there. I digress. That's a completely different issue. You can't have white coaches with an awful resume be hired and picked above black offensive coordinators and assistant coaches who have been doing this and played the game for longer. It's asinine, and I can't prove collusion, so I'm not going to say collusion, but it's alienating. It's very alienating because let's say what they did originally goes through. You get an incentive for hiring a black coach that you believe is probably not fit for the job. Better yet, how about you hire a black coach and a general manager, and it's a supermarket suite. They made it a video game. Hey, you get incentives and bonus points for hiring people that you probably don't have faith in. It needs to stop. You're insulting your public. You're insulting your fan base. And you're insulting every African-American who wants to be a part of the NFL, who wants to coach in the NFL, or who reports over the NFL. Because I guarantee you, I'll go toe-to-toe with almost everyone. Unless you got Dan Graziano or Matthew Berry, I'm going to get that story, and I'm going to bring it to light in a way that everybody can understand. But we'll never get there if we keep having this reverse racism talk and all this, the best player or best coach should get the job. Because the best coach isn't getting the job. Anthony Lynn did an excellent job in Buffalo. He got casted off. Now, no one expects the LA Chargers to do anything this year because his starting quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. All right, fine. Raheem Morris wasn't ready for a head coaching gig, but he didn't do that bad. He wasn't good. He wasn't bad. Yet he was fired. Yet a coach like Matt Patricia can go 9-22-1, and he gets a third year to be god-awful. And I'm telling you, Detroit is going to be god-awful this year. Ron Rivera got back on his feet, so let's not talk about Ron. I actually blame Marvin Lewis, because when Marvin Lewis first got to Cincinnati, they were winning regular season games, but he did absolutely nothing in the postseason. 0 for forever. And
16.
yet, year after year, when he's supposed to get fired or supposed to be on the chopping block, he doesn't get fired. Yet the exact opposite. Mike Tomlin took over for Bill Cowher, and all he has done is win, win, win. And the one time that there was dissension in the locker room or there was some controversy, people wanted his head like it was on the chopping block. There's a double standard on how we hire people, how we look at people, and how we treat people in positions of power. And I think that is where we need to focus on first.
Okay.
You know, it's something else too. I want to add something to that.
Please.
We also have to stop doing it among ourselves. And even if the person might have some different way of thinking about life other than us, just say, you know, drop a name that's Black. Say, hey, you should check out X. Or it's the butterfly effect. Little flaps create big wind,
Yes.
right? We don't have enough little flaps. And however, what's happening around life is, if you look at investment bankers, there are many Black investment bankers. We're all over. So the tools to force the kind of positive change that we all need to get ahead are with us. And they're complicated by the fact that because we're so mixed, the NFL is actually doing harm to families of people who actually look like them by not advancing, by not getting on the train where people are saying, hey, look, pick the best person, pick this person. All right. Now, I want to give credit to the league because, look, I have not changed in terms of my message. And I went in earnest to start what I'm doing now in 2015 as an idea, really 2010. And I've covered the league under my own brand all the time, going back to, 19, I would say 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so over the last 15 years, because of what you have put into place and because what you have implemented, it has given you the opportunity to continually keep the conversation going. I'm just thankful that we had the opportunity to not only meet with you, but talk with you and realize that this is something that we also need to jump on board.
But you know what, though?
Go ahead.
I view us all as like the Kairitsu. In other words, each one of you can start your own corporations, and we have cross ownership, cross partnerships, and we all grow as a unit, because in the Japanese context, with government financing, the Japanese context, that's how they grew the automobile industry to take over the United States. Okay, one of my studies is industrial policy.
There you go.
All right,
Alex, I know you got about 2 minutes before you got to jump on.
That.
No, that's fine. Before you
Alex,
got to jump on.
Join us, man. Join us.
You got to jump on Peter's show. So any final words before we let you get out of here, sir?
Things aren't going to get better unless we get better. We have to hold these people in authority to their authority. Diversity isn't something that should be celebrated only when it's convenient for everyone. We are here just as much as everyone else. You know, people say, hey, I don't want my rights taken away. What makes it right for me to be afraid to step outside every morning? You know, why is this not fit for me? That's what we go through as Black males every single day.
Yes.
And for us to just take orders and run up and down the field on Sundays for America's entertainment and not even have representation, it's condescending. And I think in 2020, it's time for a change.
He said it. Hey, before you go, I just want to say to you two brothers, why did you forget about the other Black quarterback in the NFC South?
Who?
Jameis?
Yeah.
He's a backup. He's not a starter. I was talking about
so you just threw him out just like that, huh? He's like, dang.
He's not. Hey, I was talking about the starting quarterbacks within that division. Now, we can get into other divisions, but I know Alex and I, especially this season, because of, like I said, because of where we're at, our focus is going to be pretty much Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Teddy Bridgewater.
And I got a quick question for all of you guys as Bucks, people who covered the Bucks. How do you think the media, how has the media changed already in their narrative about who the quarterback is versus when it was Jameis?
Oh, believe me, it's head and shoulders. I mean, it's, the fact that, and I was listening this morning, and I have to agree with Stephen A. Smith, the fact that Max Kellerman would, and I'll do my best Stephen A. Smith impression, the fact that Max Kellerman would formulate his lips to spew such blasphemy about the fact that Teddy Bridgewater, if he was the quarterback of the Bucs, would have the same record as Tom Brady is just utterly ridiculous. So,
Eric. Let
Go
me
ahead.
say this, and
Go
then
ahead.
I have to go. Let me say this.
Please.
The media attention, the whole tone, the connotation, and how Tampa Bay is being perceived now versus when Jameis Winston was the quarterback, it's light years different. When Jameis Winston was the quarterback, we're talking about interceptions, mistakes. He needs to go. How can we get better? He has more than enough weapons. Tom Brady hasn't taken one snap for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the talk is already, we need offensive linemen. We need to protect him. Those cats better be ready. They better study their playbook. We're going to the Super Bowl. It's Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get excited. And that's the change that I'm talking about. When one person's been there for 5 years and all you can do is slay them, and the second someone else comes in, albeit with an excellent resume, but the second somebody else comes in and takes that person's place, everyone's happy again.
Yeah.
That
Alex,
needs to
appreciate it,
stop.
man. I really appreciate it. Zennie, I appreciate your time as well. This conversation is far from over. We're going to keep it going. But gentlemen, thank you for your time. Have a great night. I will definitely talk to you guys again soon.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See ya.
Thank you.